I don't know since when did futuristic teen movies with an empowering female lead become a thing, but the magic juice sure has run out with this one. Divergent? More like desperation. I could think of so many better ways to spend 2 hours in the dark with a lady friend. First we had Harry Potter, and then Twilight came in and fucked that up. Then we had the Hunger Games, and then everything else blew up after that. Over the last year alone, we had big budget movies based on best-selling books tried and failed to live up to the standards of the movie about the annual child-killing games. So many, in fact, that the initial reaction to the film adaptation of Veronica Roth's teen coming-of-age romantic adventure drama action epic was more of a lame chuckle than a warm welcome. Well, I'll be the first to admit I knew nothing about Divergent prior to the summer of 2013 when I saw a picture of Shailene Woodley on the cover of Entertainment Weekly magazine and I went, dang, but I digress. From a little snippet of the article posted on the magazine, I gathered that the movie is a lot similar in vibe to that of the Hunger Games, which happen to be both produced by Lionsgate Summit Entertainment. You know, the studio that fucked Twilight up. Actually, Twilight was pretty fucked up. And the source novels happen to be both written by a woman who wanted to empower other women by making a girl a protagonist in both novels. At the time, I remember thinking, man, this movie's gonna flop so bad. And I'm usually right about those kind of things. I was wrong. The movie didn't flop. I checked 5 minutes ago. It had officially beaten Muppets Most Wanted as the #1 movie in America. So I guess it wasn't half bad after all, right? It was actually half good. But considering the tough standard of so many other movies aiming at the same demographic, namely girls aged 14 to 45 and gay men, the first movie in a big budget franchise like Divergent shouldn't be half good. It's not a very good place to be if it ever wants a sequel. Judging by the novel's innovative concept and the rave of reviews it had received when it first came out in 2011, the movie adaptation starring the Oscar-winning Shailene Woodley should have blown us away. Oh yeah, by the way, this is becoming a thing now. Every female empowering teen coming-of-age action romantic movie has to have an Oscar-nominated actress under the age of 25 to play the lead, because that's an easy standard for girls all over the world to live up to, right? So what is Divergent? Well, it is the name of the movie. But it's also someone who possesses qualities from all 5 factions in a futuristic America. Dauntless, erudite, and I honestly can't remember the rest. They're kind of unimportant, like Hufflepuffs in Harry Potter. Basically, America in the future is divided into 5 groups. Each embodies a human trait, such as bravery, intelligence, kindness, honesty, and so on. Our main gal, Katniss, oops, sorry, wrong franchise. Beatrice Pryor is her name. Yep, let's just make them as complicated as possible, guys. Beatrice Pryor is a girl from a non-important faction, Abnegation, who turns out to be a divergent, but chooses Dauntless as her faction on Reaping Day. I'm sorry, wrong movie again. But more or less the same thing. It is the day where every kid in the country has to pick a faction that they want to live for the rest of their lives. And despite being a divergent, who is considered to be very dangerous for some reason by the government ran by Kate Winslet, Beatrice, against all odds, becomes a Dauntless. But then she soon discovers something more cynical is going on than what's on the surface. Aren't they always? The idea is refreshing enough if we discount the Hunger Games. The cast is top-notch, but just a little bland than the one in the Hunger Games. The action is pretty decent, but not quite on the same level as the Hunger Games. Shailene Woodley is a talented, beautiful actress who isn't quite as beautiful as yeah, that one's not true. She's hot. But then again, so is the male lead, and her brother, and Miles Teller.
Okay, this is getting a little weird now.
But an attractive cast alone isn't always going to carry the film. Because let's face it, the first Hunger Games got lucky with that. You have to have actual substances other than pretty faces and a decent concept to work the movie magic. You have to figure out a way to make your movie stand out and speak for itself. And the movie fails at doing just that. From the random Ellie Goulding songs to the overly somber tone, the movie doesn't leave the audience with a feeling of triumph by the time the credits start rolling, but rather a gloomy sense of depression. Sure, they win. Somewhat. And sure, she's become a stronger and better person at the end of the film. But all that is built upon an hour and a half of grimness and violence. By the time the actual final battle begins, we're too exhausted for the characters to be on the edge of our seat. The death scenes, for example, yet, spoiler alert, some people die in this movie, begin to feel unnecessary and almost missing the point. Moments like these not only distracted me from focusing on a more important actual plotline, but also made me feel like the movie is trying a little too hard. But like I said, we can't always have the same expectations for movies as we do for books. Some things may work spectacularly for novel, but fails epically for the cinema. There's nothing wrong with that. The filmmakers just have to figure out a way to work their movies around that. and Divergent comes off a little iffy in that respect. I feel like I may be a little too tough on this film. Jeez, I did say Shailene Woodley is hot, didn't I? But this movie does have some really good parts. Despite a darker tone, it has more humors to it than the first Hunger Games does. Okay, I promise I'll stop comparing it to the Hunger Games. Also, the soundtrack is amazing, minus Ellie Goulding. Her songs just, I feel like her songs just don't fit in this movie. In terms of visuals, almost everything is forgivable, because when you have a movie this big, some parts are bound to be better than other parts. Not everything is gonna be perfect. Like this movie, some things aren't perfect. A lot of things aren't perfect. Okay, let's just say that if you're a fan of the franchise, you'll probably cry yourself to sleep by this amazing, spectacularly awesome movie and how hot Theo James is. But if you're an average, broke college student who spends way too much money for movies like me, you could probably save the money and wait till it comes out for free. Overall, I would say that although Divergent is arguably a better outing than the first Hunger Games, last one I promise, but it's overshadowed by its grimness and the painfully predictable plotline that screams been there, done that. With that, I would give this movie a 5.5 on the scale of 1 to 10. Or maybe 6. Nah, 5.7, there we go. There. A 5.7 on the scale of 1 to 10. This is Kev signing out.